Hello. We continue our discussion on program evaluation and specifically on process evaluations. In the previous video, we talked about why process evaluations are so valuable for programs, not only to make them better or to correct the course when they are in mid-implementation, but also to help us understand the results of outcome evaluations in the future. We also said that process evaluations usually want to answer 7 research questions, right? First, what are the program characteristics? Did the program follow the basic plan for service delivery? What are the program participants' characteristics? What are the participants' feelings about the program? What is their satisfaction level? What are staff perceptions of the program? And what were the individual program participants' dosages? That is, how much intervention did they receive? And what were the components levels of quality or fidelity of implementation? When you are conducting an evaluation, process evaluation, you have to decide if you're going to concentrate on all these 7 questions or you're just going to answer a few of them. It depends on the funder, right? And it depends on the purpose of the evaluation. After that, these questions are going to tell you what data you're going to need. And after that, you're going to define a time schedule, and then you're going to define who is responsible for what with your evaluation team. So let's go over these evaluation questions in a process evaluation. The first one is, what are the program characteristics? This one, of course, is the most straightforward of all, right? Because here you're describing the program in general terms. The data comes straight from the program plan, right? And this is the part of the process evaluation where you provide a general description of the program, right? It is a presentation of the program logic models. What was the program intending to do? What is the program theory? What are the program outcomes? What are the activities, inputs, outputs, outcomes, and intended impact, right? This is a basic description of the program. Any process evaluation has to start with this. And the data for this type of question is, of course, coming from administrative documents, specifically the program plan, as you know. Now, it is very important, and let me stress this again, that this is the beginning point of any evaluation, right? Any evaluation should have a program description. And what are the program characteristics? Some programs may not have this. So your first task would be to get everybody on board and define what are the program characteristics, right? Recreate those logic models so that everybody knows exactly what the program that you're evaluating is about, right? You need a very strong sense of what service delivery was intended to take place before the program was implemented, so that you know sometimes the program that you are evaluating is a very different program than was planned, and you need to capture that. At the minimum, you need to begin with a firm understanding of what were the goals, objectives, and the program components. And that is basically a logic model. Now, like I said a minute ago, the program that you're evaluating may be very different to the program that was planned. Several things may have changed, and you want to capture that in your process evaluation. Why did it change? What changed and what remained the same? That is a big part of what the process evaluation is intending to capture. The second question in a process evaluation is, did the program follow a basic follow the basic plan for service delivery, right? And of course, this question is crucial in evaluations that have an oversight and compliance focus. right? And unfortunately, many programs get to a process evaluation and discover that they have not collected enough data to really monitor their activities or their outputs. And now when you're evaluating, it's actually too late to begin collecting data, right? You should have started collecting data since the program started. So it is the role of the evaluator in an agency to provide a guide for programs on what kinds of data they must be collected from day one of the program, so that in the future, when they want to do a process evaluation or an outcomes evaluation for that matter, they have all the required data in place, right? So in this second question, when you want to monitor the degree in which the program plan was followed, you need to describe what actually was done for the program, right? What was left out, how many people were reached, how many people were not reached. And this comes from administrative data. Now, if the program is not carried out as designed, then probably the objectives will not be accomplished, right? So it is important to know not only question one, which is what were the program characteristics intended, but also what was the delivery like? What did participants actually get, right? Now there are 4 areas that you need to focus on for this to describe if the program actually followed the implementation plan. One is to describe what the planned activities that took place. What are the outputs and what were the outcomes? Also, you have to see how many people did you serve, right? Did you actually serve who you were intending to serve? 3, you need to state, hey, if you needed all these collaborations to be successful, did you get them? What is the state of those collaborations with external partners that you needed? And finally, what is the integration with other programs you needed to have? Right? So in assessing whether the program followed the basic plan for service delivery, you need to see if the activities, outputs, outcomes were reached or were implemented as intended. If the recruitment of participants was done as intended, if the collaborations with external partners were achieved as intended, and 4, was the integration with other programs achieved as intended. Now, there are several ways to do this. The Get Into Outcomes manual, they say you should state all the program components as you had them in the plan, and then make a judgment of whether you actually achieved the goal or not in implementing this. And then for each component that has an output, you should write the output that you obtained and the output that you wanted to obtain when you were planning the program, and get a ratio, right, of what did you do over what you intended to do. And of course, if the ratio is greater than 1, you're doing better than you planned. If it's under 1, then you are underperforming your plan. That is just an example of how they did it. Now, you also should track on what was your target population, the population that you wanted to reach. What was the number that you wanted to reach, and what is the number of participants you've reached, right? What percent of what you wanted to get did you actually get? And then you should also make a list of all the partnerships you wanted to have and assess whether you got them or not, right? And at the end of this section, you should always have a summary of results and an analysis of what barriers you encountered, right? And the lessons learned. If you had to change some of the components, if you could not implement all the activities, if it was an uneven implementation, then you have to say why. What were the barriers experienced, so that other people will learn from your experience and maybe learn learn those lessons to either change course or to not implement as you implemented, right? The third question is, what were the program participants' characteristics? And this is a demographic assessment, right? Every program should collect data on who they serve, right? What were the demographic characteristics of the clients they served? Demographics are variables that describe the characteristics of participants, like age, sex, race, or ethnicity, native language. And some programs also collect information on risk factors, right? What are these? What is the level of education for participants, or what is their housing status, etc. So you want to describe who you are serving in your program. People funding programs are very interested in learning who you're serving. So you need to collect data on who you are serving, not only on the activities that you're conducting, but also who you are serving at the individual level. And this can take time, but it's a very important piece of data that every program should have. A fourth question that you can answer is, what is the participant satisfaction? How do they feel about the services they are receiving? There are many pitfalls in conducting satisfaction surveys. We will focus on those in a different lecture, not on this one. But many funders are interested in participant satisfaction, how clients feel about the program. So surveys are a very useful tool for gathering this type of data. Also interviews, exit interviews with clients or focus groups, right? However, these focus groups and interviews and even the surveys, they have to be conducted by somebody else, right? It cannot be conducted by somebody in the program because then, participants may not feel comfortable in telling the truth. But anyway, you also want staff's perception of the program, right? They know, they are seeing the clients, they are on the ground. So it's important to hear from them and to hear what they're seeing out there and how they feel about the program, right? Is there anything that we can do to help them, right? If the purpose of the evaluation is that of organizational improvement, of course, this is one of the main questions you want to answer. You want to have good information on what are the perceptions on the ground by people from the program. Is this working or not? They are in an excellent position to comment on how well the program is being implemented. So again, you can use anonymous surveys or interviews by an external researcher or focus groups, right, conducted by an external researcher. The sixth question is that of what did participants actually get, right? And monitoring the individual participation. You need to know and collect data on what individuals are actually getting, right? There are many programs that have that provide, let's say, case management. So you want to know when they came in, when they were assessed, what they got through that case management. What types of interventions did they get? Some of them come in and don't finish the program. Some of them finish the program. Others come in and never come back. So you want to have an idea of what % of clients actually received the full range of services in the program and what % didn't, right? Social programs, a reality of social programs is that there's a lot of turnover. Clients come and go. Many clients move, they change phones, they change employment. So they don't finish the programs. And it's important to know how many and what were the characteristics of participants that actually finished the programs. The final question that process evaluations ask is, what were the program components levels of quality? And this refers to fidelity, right? If you are using an evidence-based practice, for example, you want to have information on whether you implemented the program as it was intended by the creators of that program. And now evidence-based programs usually come with their own tools to assess the fidelity of implementation. Others don't. And certainly if you're implementing your own intervention that you have created, you need to create your own tool to assess if it was, if the program is being implemented with fidelity, following all the guidelines that it had to follow. So these are the 7 questions that a process evaluation answers. Again, there is no cookie cutter approach for this, but all evaluations should answer some of these questions, good process evaluations, right? At least they should tailor program characteristics, at least they should count who was served, at least they should tell a story of whether, what was implemented and how it was implemented, and what changed. And the rest of the questions are sort of an added bonus to it. How do the participants feel? How the program's staff feels, and the fidelity part, and how much you want to explore those questions. That depends on the funders, that depends on the audience of the evaluation, of course. But this lecture, as you have been listening to it, you should have been thinking about all the data that you need for these types of evaluations, right? Process evaluations are crucial because you're telling the story of the program implementation. You will end with an assessment of whether the program was implemented well or not, right? And to tell that story, you need administrative data on the program, right? The program plan, the logic models, the intervention description, etc. And you need detailed data on the actual implementation, right? What was implemented? How many activities? When? How much money did you spend on that? You need a lot of data on clients, right? Who was served, what they received, how many finished, what were their demographic characteristics, right? Race, ethnicity, what were the risk factors they came in with. You may also need data on clients' perceptions, and that's surveying the clients. And also data on program staff. This can be from administrative data or also surveys or conversations you have with staff. These are some pretty heavy data requirements for evaluations, for process evaluations. The good news is that the focus of this analysis is on description, right? But you need this data. You need some data to describe. So a process evaluation starts on day 1 of program implementation. You have to have these data collection tools in place before you implement. You have to start counting, right? All the people you're serving and their characteristics. And you have to start counting all the activities and what they're getting, what clients are getting, right? So you need some data collection tools in place. And that's the role of the evaluator in an agency or in a program. Process evaluations are crucial for bettering programs and also are crucial for understanding outcome evaluations. So they have a very, very, very important place in the evaluation world. In the next lecture, we will discuss satisfaction surveys. I'll see you there. Thank you for watching.